Did you hear of that TikTok recently going viral where a mother in Africa is telling her children to make sure they eat their meal because there are starving children in America? Okay, so welcome to this video. As that intro surely dictates, both times and global attitudes have changed. And let's talk about how that impacted me as a business lawyer, an entrepreneur, a luxury lover, and put the thought in my head to start looking A, outside of Canada to begin with, and B, to Africa. So let's talk about it. In terms of why we left Canada, I've kind of touched on that in other videos. The most fundamental pillars of society, whether it be prices, taxes, cost of living, housing, immigration, are all faculties, all items that started to go, in my humble opinion, as an immigrant myself, as a previously dirt poor food bank person myself, like as somebody that was the opposite of all of the things I've just touched about. So you don't go there writing, so privileged. No. Relax, listen. So as somebody that was once the opposite of all those things and then worked my way to be and have what I have now, it very clearly became apparent in my adulthood years and forward that Canada was not going in the right direction, at least as regards what I'm looking for in a country. By the way, I'm not unique in this. Canada is having like record levels of exodus, and including in the province where I was from in Ontario. I believe in 2024 in Ontario, the single highest rate of educated individuals ever left the province. So, you know, it wasn't just a me thing, it was a we thing as regards a lot of Canadians and a lot of individuals, again, in Ontario specifically. There are other parts in Canada which I think are just incredible, and if life just had a different set of ingredients in it right now for me, I might be more tempted to live there. Honest to God, one of those areas being Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories. Another one maybe being Halifax, but that's a qualified Halifax, or maybe Victoria, BC. So again, maybe I felt the pinch, especially owing to living in Ontario. Okay, so chapter 1 closed. We recognize we want to get out of Canada. Chapter 2, where are we going? As somebody that is really well traveled, I mean, I haven't been to like every single country on earth, but I've been to about half of them. As somebody that is very well traveled, the question became where to next. And I want to be very clear here as well. At the stage of life I'm at, I kind of wanted to mix a little bit of a long vacation with a lifestyle as well. So it's not the case necessarily that I'm saying, okay, we're in Africa now, like I'm going to live here for the rest of my days. I do have another destination in mind, hopefully for my future years. But, you know, as regards a break of a year or so, mental break, a mental, you know, reset. What do I really want to do with my remaining days on planet Earth? And where can I best find the peace and the inspiration to come to those big conclusions? Africa was the conclusion. Australia, like I said, is something I see for myself later in the future. Asia, I've traveled to most Asian countries. There's a certain busyness and hustle and bustle that the system can interpret as stressful and overwhelming. So I think Asia is incredible for like a spike of civilization and cool foods and things like that, but for long term, living somewhere like a Tokyo was not necessarily going to be that different for me than living in like a Toronto, Canada's largest city. And where else? In terms of South America, we've tried that, but there are still some places that have sufficient political instability that we might have landed in one South American country, but not necessarily have been able to do much on the rest of the continent. In terms of Europe, honey, been there, done that. That's seeming to be a little bit of more of the same nowadays as regards Canada. And again, by virtue of elimination here, I wasn't moving in with the penguins, honey, in Antarctica. So Africa kind of came to be. Africa is a place I had been before by way of other countries on the continent. Very enjoyable experiences. It's a place that has a very soft spot in my heart because I specialized in African philosophy in undergrad while at Wellesley College, and just was fortunate enough to see behind closed doors and actively delve deeper than some of the very ugly, nasty stereotypes we're fed about individuals living in the different countries in Africa. So again, I came to scratch the surface on Africa a little bit. South Africa had my interest, but it was concerning to me. Other places in Africa, personally, I'm not sure that they would be there, would suit all my needs as a business person, as a family person, this and that. And then, well, we started to look at islands around Africa. Technically, Tenerife are islands on the upper west coast of Africa, although that is technically Spain, so a little bit of maybe the Europe filter there. And then we looked at islands on the east, and we got to Mauritius. So that's where we ended up, a place that is top 20 for safety in the world, safer than most European countries, a place that has a very high cost of living, which means that I'm more likely to be surrounded by other fellow successful people, especially as regards lifestyle. As I've mentioned plenty on this channel with my love, or maybe not so much love, if you can read between the lines, of a place like Dubai, for example. A lot of people can afford to trick their way into a plane ticket and a few, duck selfies on Instagram in Dubai, but it's a lot harder to afford a whole lifestyle. And again, because life is so expensive in Mauritius and the gated community / resort situation we're in right now filters out quite nicely who else is around me in terms of price point, in terms of business thought, in terms of ingenuity, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of aggression. When it comes to business, it's very hard to not be aggressive and be successful because everybody's trying to take that bite off your food. So mentality, right? Like-minded individuals, no matter where in the world they're coming from, are more likely to be found here than in other places I had looked at. And the third matrix, so we talked about safety first and foremost, and safety, I guess, / healthcare. There's both a private and public system here in Mauritius. We talked about the like-minded individuals, and like in most settings, when you think of your job, what defines your job? The work and the people. So what defined Mauritius for me? The work and the people, in a way, right? The setting and the people. And of course, to put that maybe third separate category of setting into Mauritius, the nature. It wasn't dry desert. It wasn't super dangerous in terms of some Asian countries worried about typhoons, monsoons, tsunamis, hurricanes, all of that, storms. Japan, as civilized as it is, obviously every day you wake up, you're like, please don't have the earthquake hit today, in terms of the big one. Even in Victoria, Canada, like the only reason I didn't settle down there is because of my fears of everything I've read on the big one, the big hurricane they're expecting. So from a nature-driven, natural disaster perspective, Mauritius was pretty sound on that front as well. So for that matrix of reasons, the weather, my acquaintances who I talk about this to in brief will always say, oh, you're so lucky, it's always sunny. And I'm thinking, I don't actually care about the sun, right? Like I wouldn't, because stretch that to its conclusion. You're gonna go somewhere that's scorching hot, but there's no healthcare, there's no safety, there's violence, this and that, right? So it's not the sun itself that makes the location, but the sun in Mauritius, I will say, might be some of the best sun I've ever seen. It's very hard to break a sweat here, despite the fact that it's warm every day. So something's going on. It's a special kind of heat. And again, it just seemed to be an idyllic place as pertains to the stage of life I'm in right now. It doesn't mean we can't still go back to Canada whenever we want. It doesn't mean I can't travel out of Mauritius if that need arises, or on the other hand, if something goes wrong. But pretty much it's a place that can actively, meaningfully meet all of my needs and bring a heightened sense of well-being and mental clarity and this and that, because I'm not worried about the everyday grime of the societal issues that I talked about in Canada. And here, you know, I always laugh because I feel a little bit like The Shining when Jack Nicholson's character, who I think also went by Jack in the movie, would write in his book like the same line every day: all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I feel a little bit like, is there something wrong with me? Because every day I open the curtains here, I'll take the birds as chirping, no, there's nothing wrong with you, and not them chirping, hell yeah, there's something wrong with you. But every day I open the curtains here, I literally say out loud, another perfect day in Mauritius. And it's like, we're adults, right? We know there's no such thing as a perfect day, first of all, and a lot of perfect days in a row. Well, that's not happening for sure, for sure. But I can't help but say that. I can't help. And what do you think that's going to do for the rest of my day? Of course I'm going to be in a better mood and a higher likelihood to do good things, productive things, things that matter to me, chase my goals. I've been able to chase some goals here in Mauritius that I'll be talking about more publicly in the months to come, that I never thought. They were always like 98th on my list in Canada. But because I'm able to eat through so much of the list here, because Pam as an organism is in so much more of a safer, happier, healthier state, I'm getting to goal 98, honey. And that goal, that specific goal that I'll talk about in months to come, is something that has just taken off for me. And I don't know if it would have if I was anywhere else in the world. I'll end the video there. I hope this video inspires you or makes something tick inside of you, both on the, dare we say, negative side, in the sense of if you're stuck in a rut, you can get out of it tomorrow. Drop your bags, get out of it tomorrow. Not in a negligent way, don't be leaving the baby and the wife behind, but big picture, you can change your reality tomorrow. And if you have found that more meaningful, healthy balance for yourself, keep going. Only good is going to come out of being in a setting that gets you to be your healthiest. And again, if you're looking for a channel that provides that genuinely authentic touch grass approach to luxury, then this is the channel for you. And I hope you can subscribe, and I hope we can keep growing and learning together. And let me know in the comments, what do you think of such a big move from Canada to Mauritius? Is that something you'd ever do? Have you ever considered moving to Mauritius yourself, or maybe considered leaving your current home country? Let me know in the comments down below. It is by far the best part of being on YouTube, reading your comments. See you on the next one.